Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening to all of you folks out there, wherever it is that you may be watching us. My name is Meor Addelan and this is Wachana English Edition, in which you're obviously watching us on Sina Daily's Facebook as well as YouTube pages, for Wachana English Edition, we talk about all the current topics, whatever that is happening within our beloved country, Malaysia. We try to highlight all the hot topics that is out there to discuss them with our fellow panelists. Speaking about hot, we purposely brought you this special topic. As you may well have experienced yourself, it has been quite of a weather for these past couple of weeks, with temperatures rising up to almost 39 degrees Celsius down in the Klang Valley, and not forgetting elsewhere as well. It has become such a heat wave that we have been experiencing throughout the whole country. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And yes, it is so. We don't have to worry about snow. We don't have to worry about tornadoes and whatnot. But heat wave, especially here in Malaysia, it is something which is very, very serious. And it has been reported, unfortunately, that there have been deaths associated with heat wave, unfortunately, to children up in Kelantan. And we do want to make sure that we understand what this phenomenon is all about. What can we actually do to prepare ourselves? And maybe some tips and tricks that we can really understand moving forward. Just a bit of information to share with all of fellow audience. The phenomenon, this El Nino phenomenon, has actually hit our country 12 times, with the worst case occurring back in 1997 and 1998, resulting in a high record temperature of 40.1 degrees Celsius at Chuping, Perlis. This was back in 1998. The question is, are we actually prepared right now in order to overcome this phenomenon? How can we brace ourselves with this weather, and what impact does it have on our agriculture as well as our food security? That is what we are going to be discussing throughout 1 hour here on Wachana English Edition, together with two panelists that we have brought down together with you. Let me introduce you to them. We have on my far left, we have Professor Dr. Azizan Abu Samah, UM meteorological expert. Assalamualaikum, bro.
Assalam.
Thank you so much for coming down.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and of course, beside him, we have Dr. Nurul Yakin Muhammad Isa, consultant respiratory and internal medicine physician. Doctor, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, thank you.
Has it been quite hot lately outside? There's no two ways about it, right?
Definitely. I've been switching on my aircon every night.
Yeah, apart from the weather being super hot, people have been complaining about, how their electricity bills has actually gone up due to the fact that they've been turning on their aircon indoors, almost most of the time. So that's what we're trying to find out. But before we dive further into this discussion, we want to know what El Nino is actually all about. And I think the best person to answer this is actually Prof. Hence why I'm coming to you first, Prof. So what actually is El Nino? And maybe perhaps you could explain this phenomenon to our audience who are maybe unfamiliar with it.
Okay, I think the first thing that we need to put perspective is the concept of heat wave. Heat wave is an extreme weather in which the temperature goes up for 2 or 3 days continuously. And I think what we experience, as Met Service was saying, is about 37, and I think 39, when the heat wave was there. And it only lasts for 2 or 3 days. It's not something that lasts for weeks. The other one I'm talking about is something that lasts for a year, 1 or 2 years. And that is what you call the ENSO cycle, in which we just came out from what you call the La Nina cycle, which is the one that is causing all the extra rain and flooding that we had in 2020, 2021, 2022. It's quite extended, the last La Nina. And after going into La Nina, we have they swing back to right now, is what you call ENSO neutral. But most of the forecasts are going to go for what you call El Nino, in which when you have El Nino, what you're going to have is the opposite of La Nina, which for our region, instead of having 10 to 20% more rain or flooding, we are what you call at risk to having less rain. Maybe on some areas we may even have drought. But first thing first, we are not yet in the El Nino region.
Okay.
We are still what you call ENSO neutral. So we expect to be into El Nino in July, June, or August.
Okay.
That is the forecast, about 90% chances.
All right.
That's what as reported by NOAA. So the heat wave that we had is not due to El Nino.
All right.
It's just a heat wave that occurred during the inter-monsoon period. And I think in a sense, it's an extension of what's happening over in mainland South Asia, and also some bit of it is happening in India, where the temperature in Bangkok at one stage hit 40 degrees.
Yeah.
So that's why the northern bit is a bit more hotter.
Yeah.
But it's gone. So
Okay.
now, if you read the forecast of Met Service, they are forecasting from 24th to 31st, they are forecasting for rain.
For rain, okay. As you said, Prof, just to elaborate on what you have just mentioned, we are, like heat wave is actually, like you said, it actually comes in just for a short period of time. And while we are embracing El Nino, which is, like you said, has been forecasted coming soon, does that also mean that it's going to get worse with that forecast?
With El Nino, the temperature usually goes up.
Okay.
It's quite, 1 degree more, both nighttime and also daytime, because of the fact that you have less cloud. And so when you have less cloud, you have more radiation from the sun. And when you have more radiation from the sun, the temperatures goes up. But when you say heat wave, during El Nino also, it's not going to be hot all the time. Heat wave is only about 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
And then after that, it changes. So what I'm trying to say is that if you do have El Nino coming in, there are more problems than just heat wave. I'm
Okay.
more worried
All right.
about the transboundary haze that will emerge once Indonesia starts burning
Oh, yes.
in July to September, just what they did in 2019.
Yes.
And that, to me, is a disaster, because you are subjecting nearly few million people to a very high amount of particulates.
Yeah.
And, to me, it's an environmental disaster.
Yeah.
We should call it as such, because you are subjecting the whole of Peninsula nearly, and the whole of Borneo,
Yeah.
and the Sumatran,
Yeah.
to a very high level of particulate, especially the small particulate, the 2.5,
Yeah.
which is known to cause heart attacks, which are known to cause strokes because of the clotting, because they go right into the blood system.
Okay.
So I always call it as a disaster, and I'm worried about that. That's
all right. As what Prof has actually mentioned, unfortunately, the worst is yet to come. Coming to you as a physician, doctor. Yeah, obviously, just touching back on the heat wave phenomenon, and especially when you hear, cases reported, specifically what has happened to the 2 children up in Kelantan who actually passed away due to complications due to the heat wave. What group should I say? Are only children vulnerable when it comes to these kind of heat waves, or it's literally anyone can actually be vulnerable with this?
Definitely, yeah. So basically, we can divide our population into few subgroups who are vulnerable, especially to the heat wave effect. Number one is the elderly population.
Okay.
Elderly people age more than 65 years old because their immune system are getting weaker. When we age, our immune system getting weaker, especially for people age more than 65 years old. And also children less than 4 years old, because at that point of time, their immune systems are not matured yet. Yeah? So these two vulnerable population with weakened immune system will definitely be more affected by the heat wave. Yeah?
Okay.
Apart from that, we also have people with underlying chronic medical illnesses like diabetic patients, patient with underlying heart problem, patient with underlying end-stage renal failure on dialysis, yeah? And also working age group people, working people who are working in the construction field, or athletes who have to train a lot for their sports activities. Yeah? So basically, those are the subgroup of our populations which will be more vulnerable towards the heat stroke or heat wave effect.
All right. So, in any situation for that matter, when you talk about the vulnerable, the ones who are more likely to actually be affected with any type of disease, and not just heat waves, but anything, usually the ones who are, like you said, I mean, adolescents, children, and the elderlies, which have, some complications with their immune system. Coming back to Prof, I'm actually very interested to hear your your opinions on this. I mean, as what we have been reporting, and as we all know as well, this phenomenon, the extreme weather phenomenon, has been going on for X number of years now, 12 years, as I started the show with. Has there been improvements, at least from our side, to make sure that the country is not really that affected? Because again, it has been happening every single year. Don't we have some kind of a plan, to make sure that we're fully equipped to receive such extreme weather, Prof?
I mean, in the first place, when the last heat wave that we had, when it was 37 degree or 39 degree, if you look at what Met Service does, it's not red, it's yellow.
Okay.
Which means that you're going to have a bit more heat, but it's not going to reach 40. Which is about 100 degree Fahrenheit. Yeah? So in quite a lot of countries like Australia, when it reached 40, then is when they put in steps to close the factories or whatever it is. Now, in the case of 37, or even if you are 31, if you put your kid in a car and leave the car without any aircon there, the temperature in that car can go up to 41, 42. Yes. So it's your stupidity to do that. I mean, so or if you are a teacher and then you decided to ask the kid to go and stand in the hot sun, I mean, of course the kid is going to get heat stroke.
All right.
So, I mean, there are certain things that if you have some common sense, you can survive 37 degree quite well without calling an emergency. Okay. Now, I am a weather person, and the first thing that I don't want to do is people to overreact, especially politicians lah.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, it's something quite nice. It's an issue. You want to call emergency lah. It's not necessary. It's just that you take precaution.
Yeah.
The children stay in the shade or something like that. So that's one aspect. Okay. Now, the other aspect is that have we not experienced El Nino before? No. We have experienced El Nino a number of times.
Yep.
Okay? And when you have El Nino, the most important thing that we're going to have is it may impact on your water supply. That means your river flow is low, so your water treatment plant cannot operate 100%. And with some states that have already nearly operating at full capacity under normal circumstances, when you have the water level drops, then you have issue of water supply problem. Potable water, not raw water. We have lots of water in our country.
Understand.
So it's more of potable water.
Yeah.
So it takes, I think the most important thing to me is planning.
Yeah.
That means you plan for it. You have, plan A, plan B, plan C. What's going to happen when you have that? And as long as you can plan, then you are not going to be caught with your pants down.
Yeah, it's all about planning actually, because again, as what Prof has actually mentioned, we have not just experienced this yesterday. We have gone through this previously within the last few years as well. Coming back to Doctor, the fact that we have gone through this before, Doctor, the fact that we have experienced this before throughout the whole nation, why was it such a surprise when we heard the reports of, children died due to the heat wave? Aren't they well educated? Don't people actually, take enough precautions about this? What do you think, Doctor?
I think it came back to our awareness regarding heat stroke, the effect of heat wave among our society.
All right.
There are still a lot of awareness campaign need to be done. Awareness have to be inculcated in our society's mind. I'm sure the mother is not aware. The heat wave is very dangerous and can lead to fatal outcome to the child. And maybe they are not expecting it. Maybe I'm not sure. Maybe lack of awareness campaign, I would say, among our society, reaching out to them,
unfortunately,
educating them.
so ideally, what would be the best way, actually, the best methods that we can actually protect these vulnerable people, not just the kids, not just the elderlies, but everyone? What should we take note of to make sure that we are aware that this phenomenon is actually happening and we're taking care of ourselves and our loved ones?
Right. So basically, we have three important concepts that we need to, educate our society about to counter the effect of heat wave. We have, number one, we have to have adequate water, adequate rest, and also adequate shade.
Right.
Water, rest, and shade. Those are the three concepts of, protecting our human body.
It sounds so common, isn't it? It's like common knowledge, it's like common sense, isn't it? Looking at it at the end of the day. But like you said, maybe it's just a lack of awareness that people, they just couldn't be bothered with. They just don't know.
Definitely. I think they are not taking it seriously. Just panas je, thing like that. So they forgot to drink a lot of water.
Right.
So basically, when we are facing this heat wave, we need to drink, plain water at least every 15 minutes to prevent dehydration, especially among children who are very actively, playing around, and also elderly people who are probably taking some medication, and definitely no alcohol, no caffeinated drink during this period of time, because those type of beverage can lead to dehydration.
All right.
Yeah.
So we have to diss our coffee, is it? It's something that, not a lot of us are able to actually accept that. But you need to be, I believe, you need to have it all in moderation. You need to have it very proper for all of the other things are well balanced, especially when it comes to your health. A lot more that we want to talk about. But before we actually take a break, I do want to come back to Prof, in regards of, you did mention something about how it is expected that haze could be making a comeback.
Yeah.
Like the 9th edition, 12th edition, whatever it is, it has almost been an annual thing for us, unfortunately. And it's something that I have to say is a bit inevitable. Prof?
Well, the La Nina did not have any haze. 2020, 2021, 2022, no haze.
Yeah, because there was COVID.
No, not because of COVID. Because the fact is that it was raining in Indonesia. It's wet. So they cannot burn during the normal season of July, September. So you can imagine what is going to happen is that if ENSO comes in, they haven't been burning their forest for 3 years because they cannot burn it because it's wet. So there's this huge backpile of land clearing that they want to do.
All right.
And, so this particular window, what I'm trying to say, the Indonesian already said that there may be more burning.
More burning.
When ENSO comes. That means their burning season is July to August.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so say ENSO kicks in July, August, September. That means it's drier.
Yep.
So it's a right, situation for me to go and clean up my forest or clean up my palm oil.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, it is something that is out of our hands, but definitely it is something that we can still...
That's what happened in Indochina. That's what they did. They went and burned in Indochina just recently because of the heat.
Yeah.
And if you look at the map of Indochina, a lot of particulates in Indochina, even now. But now it has decreased because they're going to have the dry season.
Yep.
So we have an issue. Kuala Lumpur itself, as a hotspot, is already high in particulates. Okay, Kuala Lumpur, the other one is Johor and Singapore. So you have two hotspots.
Yep.
That is already local. So so the next one that I really am not trying to sound the alarm, but what I'm trying to say, come July, we have to be extra watchful, extra careful.
Yep.
What is going to happen in our neighbor.
Yeah, definitely. Things are definitely getting heated, not just outside here in the studio as well. We are definitely going to be talking more about this topic, about El Nino, about what to expect for extreme weather. And after this break, we'll be talking about the impact that it gives us specifically. Make sure you guys tune in. Stay with us here on Wacana English Edition.
So dia kata macam ni lah, we have a President UMNO, last time bapa pembangunan, Presiden UMNO, bapa pemodenan, Presiden UMNO, bapa perpaduan, but now we have a Presiden UMNO, bapa pemecatan.
Sinar Daily is at Splash Mania Gamuda Cove, the new water theme park that just opened.
Thank you so much for staying here together with us here on Wacana English Edition, talking about our very, very, very important topic. I can express it more, which is El Nino, preparing for extreme weather. And has Prof and both Doctor as well has been explaining throughout, it is actually a very, very serious thought, and it is something that we need to be super aware of. We need to be very mindful of what is to happen moving forward. Let's continue the discussion about this, and we do want to talk about the effects, the impact actually, of how El Nino that we could actually experience. And I'm drawn to you one more time, Prof, because earlier you mentioned something about our water supply, which is unfortunately a standard thing that has been happening within the Klang Valley itself. El Nino, La Nina, whatever it is, the water supply has always been an issue, but with El Nino around the corner, it definitely will disrupt that even further. Prof.
Okay.
Okay, that's a long sigh there.
Well, on one hand, when we have La Nina, we have flooding. 2020, 2021, 2022. That's because with La Nina, our region becomes the main area of convection, and we tend to get during La Nina period 10 to 20% more rain, and especially during the northeast monsoon is much stronger, and so you have flooding and landslide. That's during La Nina. With ENSO, if it does come, it's in a way good in the sense because the northeast monsoon is not going to bring you that much heavy rain. It's going to rain, but not as much as in case of La Nina. So the risk for flooding is less.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one good news.
All right.
During
Silver
the
lining,
northeast
I guess.
monsoon, yeah. That means somewhere in November, October, we're going to have our northeast monsoon, but the northeast monsoon is not going to. It's going to be weaker.
Yeah.
So which means we don't have to worry too much of the risk of flooding. Having said that, that doesn't mean that we are out of flash flooding, because flash flooding is due to thunderstorm. This is a very small area, and lots of rain in that small area, and then the drainage cannot cope, and then you have
That's another kind of work right there. Yeah.
It's a different one. So the other aspect, as you mentioned, with ENSO or El Nino, is that it tend to that means from July onward until the November, where the northeast monsoon kicks in, the river flow tend to go down. So what happened is that quite a lot of our water treatment plant cannot operate at 100% capacity.
All right.
Because it depends very much on the flow. And you can see in some of the issue coming up. You can see the Sungai Muda issue coming up, where Kedah itself is on a critical stage. It doesn't have enough treated water, and has water reticulation problem. So the water pressure drops, and then you have whole of Alustar no water. The same thing happened in Pahang. The same thing can happen in Terengganu, has happened, and with Selangor, it has happened, and and with lower river flow, you also increase the risk of pollution, because the volume of water that you need to mix the pollutant has now gone down. So the water at one level is not polluted, now can be polluted. So you have all this problem dealing with the quality of raw water. You have problem of the quantity of raw water that you're going to get. So all this will come in, and sometimes they come in at the right same time.
Same time. I mean, like it's like a perfect storm when everything is all happening at the same time. Drawn to you back, Doctor. That creates another set of problems, because again, when you talk about heat wave, it gives you a set of problems. But when you talk about lack of water reserves, treated water is not sufficient enough. Again, it brings out another set of thinking, and it's not definitely good for your health.
Yes, definitely. So basically, when we are dealing with El Nino, we're dealing with heat wave, we are dealing with a lot of worsening chronic medical illnesses. A lot of diabetic patients become more sick. A lot of people with heart problem, have to be admitted to the hospital. A lot of asthmatic patient, had an exacerbations. So people with underlying medical illness are getting sicker with the El Nino phenomenon. And on top of that, when we have La Nina came with the flood issue, that will start another different medical issues. We are dealing with infectious disease like dengue, malaria, waterborne disease, cholera. Infection are being transmitted easily, especially during flood season or during La Nina season. And when we talk about El Nino again, with the haze coming, I've seen a lot of asthmatic patients having to be hospitalized, ended in emergency department, have to be admitted to ICU because of exacerbation. They have severe asthmatic attack, needing ICU care. People with underlying chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, had to use oxygen support, had to be treated with antibiotics because of the infection triggered by this El Nino and also La Nina phenomenon. So those are the conditions that we have to face, especially being in the medical fraternity. This phenomenon of El Nino and La Nina are definitely going to worsen our society's health condition if we do not take proper precaution. Especially when the heat wave is in. Dehydration is also another big bulk of an issue. Dealing with heat stroke, dealing with heat cramps, heat exhaustion, especially among children. I mean the two cases are very sad. So I really hope that it will not happen again. Especially nowadays, the media are creating a lot of awareness. Hopefully this will further educate our society so that a lot of our people are more aware on the danger and what to do, what are the steps that we need to take precaution in order to prevent unnecessary death.
And coming back to what you have just mentioned, I mean, the fact that it actually has been reported, the two cases in Kelantan, when these happen to children are not able enough sometimes to actually express their discomfort, express their concern, because they could just come up to their father and mother and say that, oh, I'm hot, I'm this and that. And more often or not, parents are just going to be dismissing them and okay, just go into the room, just drink a cup of water.
Yeah.
That creates another set of problem itself, because there's no way that a child could communicate that well to express their condition at that moment in time, and that's scary.
Yep. Not just child actually, even adult also sometimes having difficulties telling that they are actually having symptoms of heat stroke, because when we have a heat stroke, our thermal regulator, we have a hypothalamus area in our brain that's actually regulate the temperature control of our body. When we are experiencing heat stroke, this thermoregulator component in our brain is not really working well, hence cannot tell whether we are actually experiencing extreme heat or not. Yeah, so a few features that we need to identify, especially for parents outside there. Please monitor your children's physical activities. Yeah, usually when they started to have features of heat exhaustion, they will be more weaker. They will be less active. They will have poor appetite. Yeah, and you can see their eyes are a bit sunken. Yeah,
okay.
And they are passing urine lesser than normal, and also the amount of urine are also very small amount compared to normal amount, and the color of the urine is very darkened, very concentrated, because the body is already dehydrated. Yeah. So that is probably about heat exhaustion. When you talk about heat stroke, basically you are talking about when the brain is already affected. Yeah, that's when the children and even the adults started to have neurological manifestation, means that they started to have confusion, they started to have abnormal behavior, they started to become dizzy, and they can just faint, and sometimes they can go into coma, and eventually they can die. 20% of heat stroke can lead to death actually.
I mean, it's something that we cannot take very lightly when it comes to, should you are able to identify these kind of symptoms, please go and get yourself treated, go to the nearest hospital just to get, it doesn't bother, anyone just to get a regular checkup at the end of the day. Best case scenario, there's nothing. You just, just a bit tired and lethargic, that kind of a thing. Worst case, at least you have enough time to get yourself medicated and get everything all checked up. Coming back to, Prof, yes, obviously, we're doctor, we talk about, the health side of things. But with you, Prof, I do want to express, ask you a bit more about, yes, coming back to the water issue. I'm interested in your points in this as well. Do I need to start rationing my water right now? Prof, really? Are we expecting this to happen very, very soon, in which that everyone should be having that mindset, oh, I need to ration my water intake right now. I need to have my pails and my storage all geared up right now because of what is to happen within this next few weeks and months.
Well, staying in Selangor without even...
I think everyone is doing that.
So now, it's not an easy question to answer, in the sense that we have a lot of raw water.
Okay.
Peninsula, we have 2 meters of water per year. Per year. And East Coast, you have so many big rivers. West Coast, you have less.
Okay.
So, in terms of available raw water, we don't have problem.
Okay.
We have enough.
Treated water, that's the question.
What we have is issue of treated water.
Okay.
Issue of water supply. And that is a different story, because that means you have to create your water treatment plant, you have to have enough volume to have your water treatment plant. That require investment, and then after that you need to recirculate it to the people, and that require investment. So, in other words, water is under state. Water is not under federal.
Okay.
So which means that state like Selangor has a lot of money. It can invest in its water. In fact, Selangor water is among the most efficient. You cannot dig your own tube.
That is not in our topic of discussion today, obviously. But one thing I do want to ask you also, Prof, as we are talking about how El Nino is impacting, we've heard about how it could impact us physically, health-wise. But let's talk about it industry-wise, specifically agriculture. At the end of the day, with the emergence of drought, what you could see happening in the state of Perlis and Kedah, where it is scorching heat and dry lands are everywhere, it is affecting the agriculture industry as a whole. And that is also a scary thought.
Okay. One of the things with any food security is a supply chain. So even, let's say, we are able to grow our rice, but let's say there's a big drought in Australia. It means that the export of rice, Australia export lots of rice. You punya sun white is Australian.
All right.
Wheat also is exported from Australia. So the whole food chain can go up. That means the price of food can really go high up with what you call El Nino. So the issue of food security is not just looking at our small, Kedah problem, because usually when you have strong El Nino, the second crop is not being able to, they cannot have their second crop. So instead of 2 crops per year, it will be 3 crops over 2 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you're taking a bit of supply of rice out if it's a strong El Nino. I'm saying if it's a strong El Nino.
Yeah.
Okay. But as I said, Australia usually tend to get drought, and bad drought compared to us when you have El Nino. So you can see the whole supply chain will be impacted. So food security plays not only just water security, food security also will come up.
It's like a domino effect, isn't it? I mean, if one factor is influencing such events, then all the other things would also be affected as well.
And it's also quite important because the Ukraine war is still on.
Oh yes.
So which means that in terms of wheat, wheat price might go up very high if you have El Nino, because Australia cannot export. So what I'm trying to say, you need to anticipate the scenario. And as I was telling my press colleague, please go and study 2019, what happened.
Okay.
Which areas are being affected, which area is being impacted, so that we can have forewarning and then plan what are the mitigation that we can take to alleviate the situation. Not to say you can avoid it. You can't avoid it.
Yeah.
It's going to come.
But how you plan it?
You have
from
to plan
experience.
it.
Yeah. That's very, very important. I mean, hence why, we're sort of lucky the fact that we've actually gone through this already. There's a lot of, a lot of things that we can actually take to heart, a lot of things that we can actually expect should this phenomenon, appears once again, as what Prof has mentioned. It will come. It's just a matter of when, the exact date. But it's all about being prepared and having the proper planning. Before we get on to our break, one more thing I do want to ask you, Doctor, when it comes to heat wave, again, the impact that it has on on an individual, in regards of signs, in regards of the symptoms and whatnot. Just share with our audience, what is it that we need to be mindful of? What are the key things that, this is very much heat wave related?
Okay, so basically we can divide our heat wave effects on health, health physiology, is that we can divide into heat exhaustion, heat cramp, and we also have heat rash, and finally we have heat stroke. Heat stroke is medical emergency. It's deadly. Yeah, heat exhaustion is probably one of the earlier effect that you can see. Usually when someone started to have heat exhaustion, they will start to have very thirsty sensation. Actually, that is the delayed period already. When you start feeling thirsty, means that you are already dehydrated.
Okay.
So you have to drink a lot of water before you feel thirsty itself. Not drink water when you get the thirst sensation.
Okay.
Before you feel thirsty, you need to drink the
Proactive
water.
rather than
Definitely,
reactive.
definitely. So during this El Nino, season, we need to make sure we are drinking very frequent water. Like I said earlier, at least every 15 minutes each, and at least 1 to 2 liter per day. Yeah,
1 to 2 liter
drink
per
water.
day.
Yeah, and you can also feel the excessive tiredness, lethargy. So those are the key warning signs that you are probably experiencing the effect of heat wave onto your body. Yeah, and you can look at your urine color. Yeah, it started to become very concentrated. You know that you are lacking of water already. You are very dehydrated already.
Okay.
Yeah? And then you might start feeling that your heart is beating faster than normal. So those are the important signs of dehydration. We call it, some people call it palpitation. They feel the heart beating fast. Yeah, and when you feel on your pulse, you can feel that the pulse is racing very high. Yeah, normal pulse rate should be between 80 to 100.
Yep.
More than that, you know that probably you are having dehydration already. Yeah.
All right.
And then some people can have like dizziness, headache. So you know that you're probably experiencing one of the features of heat exhaustion. Some people can also have heat rash. They can have some, rash on their skin especially when they're exposed to a hot temperature, and they can see their skin turn red.
Okay.
Very dry. Yeah. And then, if let's say talking about children, you can see they have sunken eyes. Yeah, they can probably have, probably the babies, they can have sunken frontal area here. Yeah, you can see
okay.
depressed area here. Yeah,
Right.
and the baby or the children usually will be less active than usual.
Yeah.
They have less appetite. They drink less. They eat less. And when you start seeing that your children are actually becoming a bit abnormal behavior, usually they will be very active, playing around. Yeah, then suddenly you saw that why is
something's wrong.
something is not right here. A bit weak, not really active. You know it's time to bring to the hospital already. Need urgent treatment like hydration, cooling measures and all that.
Yeah, those are the kind of things that you need to be very much aware of. My heart is racing just by talking about this topic together with our two guests. But we are just taking a break for a short while. I need to hydrate myself as well. Do not go anywhere. Stay with us here on Wacana English Edition.
For next gen, basically our vision is for families to come here and they create happy memories together as well as one. Because it's a whole family theme park, one thing. And also, this is one of the largest indoor theme park. It's about 43,000 square feet.
Wow, that's big.
All right, thank you so much for staying on with us, talking about the heatness, which is extreme weather. What is it that we need to prepare ourselves with, and the signs that we need to be aware of, whatever it is that's happening outside there. And thank you so much to all our fellow viewers. Should you have any questions or any comments, do give us the comments on the social media platforms that you're watching us right now, whether it could be on YouTube as well as on Facebook. We do love to hear from you and your experience when it comes to extreme weather, and perhaps something that we can share on the show as well. Coming to our third block, our last block today here, I just want to wrap it up, not really wrap it up right now, but coming back to the whole idea of preparing and planning. One thing, Prof, you have actually mentioned off air earlier. You're saying that El Nino is not a natural disaster. It is a man-made disaster, as you said, no? Okay, so what?
What is not natural
Yep.
is the burning and
yes.
the clearing of the forest
Okay.
that may happen in July to September
Okay.
when they do burn the peat forests. They do burn the palm oil to clear up, and the matter becomes bad because with El Nino, the ground is dry, so the forest fire index is high. So which means that if you burn pit area, the pit is going to continue burning for days.
Yeah.
And that will produce a lot of smoke and particulates. And then when that happened, and when you talk about 2019, when they measure the hotspot really spiked to about 1,000. And so you can imagine how much particulates that is being put into the air, and how much is spread. It covers from Sumatra, Kalimantan, right up to Penang.
Yeah.
And it basically subject nearly 10 to 20 million people to a high concentration of particulates, because the particulates can go up to 50 microgram. That's already high. It can go to 80 microgram. This is 2.5. I'm not talking about 10 micron. I'm talking about 2.5 micron particulates that can go into your
lungs,
blood system.
Blood system. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So there is more particulates, and that to me, since 1997, because I was involved in the haze issue, I've already raised the issue, and I've always stated that haze is a environmental disaster, bencana, because it impact on a big amount of population. I mean, it impact about 20, 30 million people.
Yeah.
And I think, we have people who are asthmatic. We have school being closed at one stage, in Klang.
Yeah.
When
the API level was so high.
400.
Yeah.
And when I go out, every time when the haze, I go out, I can smell the smoke in PJ.
Yeah.
So when you can smell it, that means it's already very high.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is that, ASEAN as a group have never been able to tackle it as yet. And I say this because the transboundary haze, I was one of the people who were involved in the discussion since 1992.
Wow.
And we have not been able to tackle it at the moment.
All right, hold on to that thought. There's more to digest there. There's more to dig in. What Prof has actually said about coming to you, Doctor. Yes, the man-made disaster, as what Prof has actually mentioned, is the burning. Whatever happens, maybe on our shores as well, or maybe our neighboring countries as well. Haze is somewhat of a common occurrence that happens almost every year, like clockwork, and like what Prof has mentioned, schools have been closed down, API levels went up to the roof because of the dangerousness. It is super dangerous when it comes to haze because, again, it involves you physically and health-wise. How can someone, prepare themselves for this? Unfortunately, we can't stop it, but what we can prepare.
Right. So basically, this small particulate matter can enter our body via our nose, via our nostrils. So basically, the most important thing is if, let's say, we have to go out during this haze season, we need to make sure we are wearing proper masks. Yeah?
Which we're used to anyway for the past 2.5 years.
Definitely. So try our best to be within the indoors area rather than outdoor. Try to limit physical activities outdoor. Yeah. Probably you need to forget for a while hiking, mountain climbing, scuba diving, whatever outdoor activities. Try not to do that during this haze season. And drink a lot of water. Wear mask if, let's say, you really have to go outside. Wear a lot of protection. Mask. And make sure the elderly people are well taken care of because they are among the vulnerable population. Sometimes they are not able to take care of themselves. They're very fragile. So make sure they are being protected properly.
Yeah, especially a lot of cases.
And make sure the patient with
occur in 2019, when the haze occurred in 1997, you find all the hospital, the asthma case
shoot up. Definitely.
Because the particulate is also an allergy.
Yes.
And just borrowing what has been mentioned recently by our Deputy Prime Minister, Datuk Sri Zahid Hamidi, he said that, again, coming back to what you have said earlier in the show, you know, how you know, the country, the government could actually declare a state of emergency due to the current conditions right now, you know, with the high rise of temperature. Granted, we're still in the yellow in some areas, not really red yet. Is there, you know, a time that we should be really concerned about this? Is it something that really the country, the government needs to declare a state of emergency because of the weather?
In the case of haze, yes, because the haze, there's the API level.
Yes.
When you reach a certain API level, 400, then school has to be closed, traffic has to be cut down. So we have already experienced it, and we already have what you call
Implemented it, done it.
implemented it. Yeah, and you know, I think in that respect we have learned from our you know, how to manage the haze, but we are not able yet to manage the transboundaries aspect.
And
that is the issue. That's why I call ASEAN.
yeah, I mean, it affects the whole region. It's not just one single country. It does.
No, it's about 20 million people.
Oh, there you go.
I mean,
that many.
that's what happening. And you know, I think Singapore tried to shame because what Singapore did when it has the hotspot, Singapore will then put in the location of it, put it in so that people know where the longitude or latitude of the hotspot. But you know, after that, our neighbor, of course, was not that happy. But what I'm trying to say, there is that degree of shame. But ASEAN was the one that set up the ASEAN transboundary haze.
Okay.
So somehow or other, you know, to me, this is a major disaster that can be avoided under ASEAN.
Under ASEAN. Should everyone play their own part?
Yes.
Of course.
Yes. They even set up the ASEAN Special Meteorology Center in Singapore to do the prediction.
Okay.
Okay. So there's element of it, but they never got it right. And every year, especially during ENSO year, we are facing the problem.
So, to your own knowledge, to your own experience, to your own forecast, is it going to get worse year by year?
It depends whether it depends whether ENSO is there or not. And the good thing about the whole thing is because it's controlled by the southwest monsoon. So the moment the southwest monsoon stops, then you have the northeast monsoon coming in, then the haze is blown right up to Sri Lanka. Okay, so we have that period between July to September to worry about. Especially, I always remember this because we like to celebrate, you know, flying our jet in 31st of August.
Okay.
And during haze period, you can't see the jet.
Yeah, it's a bit of an unfortunate. Doctor, coming back to you, yes, what Prof has actually mentioned, weather is something that you cannot control. You obviously have no power at all to control the weather, but one thing you can control is to safeguard yourself moving forward against the heat, against the expected haze that is coming, you know, to our shores. What are the things that we need? I mean, do I need to bring a gas tank together with me, like, you know, log around like a scuba diver, you know, to that extreme? I hope not.
Yeah, so basically the most important thing is we have to make sure our immune system is strong.
Okay.
Yeah, so there are a few measures that we can do to boost our immune system. Yeah, facing COVID. Yeah, we have been vaccinated by COVID vaccine, but unfortunately we have other bacteria and other viruses that can cause infection to our body. So as a lung specialist, I've advised all my ill patient or fragile population, elderly people, children, people with underlying medical illness to get themselves vaccinated by influenza vaccine and also pneumococcal vaccine. Yeah, because haze is where asthmatic patients are getting more severe attack, usually triggered by infection. So in order to prevent them from developing asthmatic attack, we need to prevent the infection from getting to them. So how to prevent infection is by getting vaccinated. Yeah, so influenza, pneumococcal, please make sure all of us taking it, especially the vulnerable population, and make sure our medications are all adequate Yeah, the asthmatic have adequate inhalers at home. Yeah, the diabetic have adequate diabetic medication. The patient with underlying heart problem have adequate heart medication. Patient with underlying end-stage renal failure with regular dialysis, make sure they are not missing their dialysis. Yeah, so and also sleep. Adequate sleep have
It's
been
hard to
shown.
sleep when it's too hot, doctor.
Definitely, definitely. So yeah, that's when we have to, probably use our aircon. And another measure, probably some of our unfortunate people do not have enough financial to install aircon. What they can use is that they can use a wet towel and put it in their room. That can help to actually moisturize the weather and help to
The
cool
air,
down the
yeah.
air as well.
Alright.
So yeah, moisturizing the air and so we talk about sleep just now, right? Adequate sleep. Research have shown that people who have adequate sleep of more than 4 hours have double the immunity compared to people who are lacking of sleep less than 4 hours a day. So they've done a research comparing these two group of people who sleep less than 4 hours, people who sleep more than 4 hours, and they found that the antibody level is actually twice higher in people who actually sleep more than 4 hours. So make sure we are not missing our sleep. I'm sure all of us are very busy with a lot of deadlines, assignments and all that, but please, sleep is actually one of our important physiological needs that we cannot neglect. And regular exercise. At least 20 to 30 minutes a day, that can help to boost our immune system. They can also help to boost our happy hormones. Yeah, the
pheromones.
serotonin. Yeah. So research have shown that
But
people
you can't go and run during the haze.
You can run on a treadmill.
You can exercise in the house.
Indoor.
Yeah, indoor exercise. As long as you sweat, as long as your heart rate increase a little bit, then that's actually considered as exercise. At least 20 to 30 minutes a day is actually adequate to consider as adequate exercise to help to boost our immune system. So vaccination, sleep, adequate exercise, and not to forget a healthy, balanced diet. Those are the things that's very important to boost and improve our immune system in order that currently we are facing this coming El Nino and also La Nina phenomenon that's actually very dangerous to our health.
The only thing that I got from that is that I need to sleep more after this. No, there's a lot of things. I mean, this is actually a well-known fact, doctor, when it comes to taking care of yourself. I mean, regardless of whether it's El Nino, whether it's the heat wave, whether it's the haze, at the end of the day, it's all about practicing good health. And just maybe you can also remind our fellow viewers, should, when would be the time for them to seek professional help? Again, because sometimes people would take things very lightly. This is nothing. Just put ice cube over your forehead, then you're going to be fine. So what would your advice be to our audience?
So basically, when you start experiencing features that might suggest that you have heat exhaustion or heat stroke, heat exhaustion can be detected by you yourself feeling that your heart is beating faster than normal, and then you feel extremely tired, and then you feel extremely thirsty, and then you start feeling giddy. And if let's say you see your friend is starting to seems to be very confused, abnormal behavior, those are the warning sign. You have to go to the hospital immediately. Cannot delay anymore. So those are the warning signs that you need to watch out.
Again, all the symptoms, you can actually check them out yourselves. Or, it's a well-known fact that if you do not feel well, if you're under the weather, again, it doesn't harm you just to get a professional opinion on how it is that you are doing. We're almost running out of time, but I do want to come back to Prof. Granted, we have not even passed the El Nino bit, again, anticipating it coming in July and August. But post El Nino, what is to be expected? Like you said earlier, is it heavy rain? From dryness now, we have to be aware of wetness. What is to be expected within the next 3-4 months at least?
3 or 4 months. We are going to go into, prediction is that we are going to go to El Nino episode. And it's going to last possibly until next summer.
Next summer. Oh, okay.
Okay. So, as I said, the good news is that the risk of flooding during the northeast monsoon is less.
Okay.
Then the risk of haze is higher because you're going to, because somebody is going to do open burning somewhere.
Somebody, yes.
Okay. So that's a good point. But in northwest monsoon period, the southwest monsoon, which is now, we have to be on the alert. We have to do all the hotspot monitoring, which Singapore is doing. to see whether the hotspots start to increase. And the moment the hotspots start to increase, in Singapore, what they do is that for certain, for school, they have what you call clean air room.
Clean air room. Okay.
Where they filter the room, so those children, especially that are prone to more asthmatic, they are put into that room for a short while, so that they don't get stressed up. So being prepared, to me, is the essence. That means you have all, especially in public domain,
Alright.
in hospitals or in schools, and of course normal folks like us, old people, then we stay indoor
Yeah.
instead of running outdoors during the haze period.
Yeah.
And I am hoping that there's no haze, because one of the things that 2020 we did not have, 2021 we did not have. We have a lot of rain. 2022 we did not have. And one of the things that I find is that we tend to forget. I mean, we talk about Melayu mudah lupa. Actually, it's Malaysian.
Malaysian, yeah.
Mudah lupa. And then the worst thing is, kalau mudah lupa, don't overreact also. Okay?
That's the thing. Yeah.
I mean, I remember Sina Harian called me up and said, you want to do your pendidikan. I got cancer.
Okay.
I mean, there's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
You have all the proper cool room, you have a good ventilation, you still can have your outdoor activities under the shade. So, don't overreact either.
Yeah, exactly. It's not, I mean, like at the end of the day, when we talk about this natural or man-made phenomenon, at the end of the day, it's all about getting yourself geared up, getting yourself prepared well, health-wise, as well as, being a good Malaysian at the end of the day. So make sure you guys take care of yourself health-wise, take your proper vaccination as what was proposed by our beloved doctor over here. And should you are, experiencing any complications, do seek professional help. And what Prof has actually mentioned as well, don't go simply do open burning. Again, we have irresponsible people all around the world already doing that. So do not contribute to that. Make sure that we take care of our own, with the extra heat. Stay indoors. Should you want to go run, should you want to go hiking, try hike up your stairs. Your building has 20 floors, maybe, that's another form of exercise that you can actually do. We have come to the end of our show today. Thank you so much. We want to say to both of our guests, Professor Dr. Azizan Abu Sama, UM meteorological expert, together with Dr. Nurul Yakin Muhammad Isa, consultant respiratory and internal medicine physician. Thank you both for coming down to this show, Wacana English edition. That is all from us. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's edition. Remember, stay safe, stay dry, and if you're too dry, drink lots of water to get yourself dehydrated. My name is Meor Addelan. Hope to see you guys on the next one. Make sure you guys follow all our socials on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and so on. This is me signing off. Take care. Assalamualaikum. Good night.